Welcome. This is episode 9 of Driepoot. We are three Afrikaner friends who like to chat about hunting. Driepoot, as you will see up here, the picture is a traditional African pot with 3 legs. These 3 legs stand in South Africa, Australia, and South Africa. And this is where we each are situated. And we love to chat about hunting. So in Athens, Georgia, I am sitting here. It's 8 a.m. in the morning. And then in the capital city of South Africa, Pretoria, it's almost 2 p.m. there. Welcome, Valentine.
Hello, Donnie.
And then down under in Perth, Australia is Jan. Welcome to the program, Jan.
Hello, Donnie. Thanks.
Just interesting to note that Jan is sitting in his pickup truck where the internet is better. He cannot be in his hunting store due to a lockdown in Perth, Australia. Now, to the American friends, it'll be interesting. Jan, just tell us, what is the cause of the lockdown in Perth?
Donnie, yeah, they found one COVID case early in the week, and then the next day another one.
Okay.
So there's 2 cases, and they put us under lockdown to make sure that it doesn't spread.
Yeah.
So we're under lockdown for 2 cases, but better safe than sorry, I say.
Yes, I guess so. Valentine, I know we don't want to harp on the COVID thing because it's it's getting a little old, but you guys are also kind of in a lockdown, is that right?
Yeah, we're in a level 4, as they say, but we have a lot of cases in Gauteng, where the province where I live. It's around about 12,000 new cases per day. So we have a new variant here. So it's hectic at this stage. So it's more than in the complete US at this stage. So yeah, we're getting infected.
Yeah, so one little province in South Africa, more infections per day than the whole of the United States. And obviously, as we said, we don't want to talk politics, but the government is very slow with the assistance with the vaccines and all of those things turn political and corruption and all of that, so it doesn't help.
That's the whole problem. As you said just now, it's all about not vaccinating people and the corruption that goes with it. So yeah, it's a big problem.
Let's move on to better topics. Let's step off the politics. I just want to say to people listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and like our Facebook page, then you'll know what's going on in future. We also chat on a radio program these days. It's Bullseye. It's the best explanation or translation I can give to call squid, but unfortunately that is in Afrikaans. Happens on a Friday night, Friday afternoon, peak hour, 4 p.m. on the biggest Afrikaans radio station basically in South Africa. But our American friends would not be able to listen to that, or Australian friends for that matter. Let's get into some discussion on reloading. I was on the shooting range last week, and 2 of my friends next to me, they were shooting 338 Lapuas, and they were not finding too much happiness and success with their grouping, but also less happiness because every time they pulled that trigger, it was $8, $8, $8. And the topic of reloading came up, and Valentine, I know you always say that it is, I don't know if it's primary or secondary, but cost is one of the issues with reloading. The other one obviously is the satisfaction and the precision that you shoot with, that you get precision out of the whole process. But it made me just think about the topic of reloading. Won't you just chat to us a little bit about some of the topics on reloading, please?
Yes, for sure, Donnie. It's first thing, it's definitely cost effective, or more cost effective to reload. But I don't think that's why most people reload. As you said, it's more about getting the most out of your specific weapon that you use to get as accurate as possible. But there is a cost implication, and you do save a lot of money when you start to reload. Even if you make use of really good quality brass, the fact that you can reload that brass for a couple of times makes it more cost effective than just buying them off the shelf. So it helps. So just to start off quickly, I just want to show 3 basic types of cases that you get, just to, because they sometimes talk about rimmed cases, rimless and belted cases, and I'm not sure that everybody actually knows the difference. So I'm just going to start off with those cases here, so that we can just discuss that a little bit. So yeah, I have 2. This is a 38 special. This is called a rimmed case. So as you can see, it has a rim on the bottom that's a little bit, the diameter is bigger than the rest of the case. So that's called a rimmed case. I also shoot the 22 Hornet, which is quite a nice caliber to shoot. It's a little bit smaller than the 223, but it's quite a nice caliber regarding recoil and all of those. That's also a rimmed case, so you can see the nice rim there in the bottom. Then we have rimless cases. So most cases we shoot, especially hunting cases or ammunition calibers are rimless. So that's like this 30-06. I use this is then with a Nosler AccuBond. So this is the rimless. So as you can see, the diameter of the rim on the bottom is the same diameter as the rest of the case. And this is a normal 9mm parabellum, which is similar, also a rimless case. Then you get a belted case. I'll ask Jan just now just to elaborate a bit on why you get belted cases. But this is the 7mm Remington Magnum. I think this is a 150 grain point or something. But yeah, you can see it has a belt on the bottom. So that's mostly just to get the headspace right in your rifle. So, but Jan, can you please elaborate on the reasons for this, and where does this 7mm Remington Magnum's case come from? The parent case of the 7mm. Can you just quickly elaborate on that, please?
Valentine, yes, the belted Magnums usually headspace on the belts, where the other cases are the head spacing is done between the primer end of the case and the sort of halfway between the shoulder and the neck. So the head spacing that's done on the belts sometimes allow for a little bit of oversized chambers on the belted Magnums. And a mistake that a lot of people make is to full size these cases down to the minimum every time that they reload, which really increase the work hardening on the cases. And after a while, it starts thinning just near the end of the belt. And if it's thin enough, it might break off when you try and remove the case. And then you get the rest of the case sitting in a chamber, and you just sit with the head end of the case on the outside, which causes a bit of trouble. So if you're shooting belted Magnums, it's prudent to think about it a little bit and try and not to resize the cases too far. Just size it far enough so that the bolt will close easily. Otherwise, you might run into problems with those cases. That's the main problem that we have with belted cases, and it's not necessarily a design problem. It's more to do with people not understanding the mechanics and just doing the wrong thing. So it's just a good thing to keep in mind if you're shooting belted Magnums like the 7 Remag that's deducted from a 458 case. You know, anything with belted, the 458s, the 300 Win Mag, 300 Holland 375s, all of those cases that have belts, be careful with those.
Okay.
Donnie, as Jan mentioned now, so just to show that again, so normally you'll get a crack in the case just above the belt. It does actually happen not just with belted cases, but also with the regular cases. So this is a 30-06. You get the same thing with that, especially when you use full sizing dies, because then you work the brass the most. So then the lifetime of the brass will tend to be less than just, for instance, just neck sizing or doing.
It's probably worth mentioning, you know, if you have a rifle with a chamber that was cut near the minimum end of the SAMI specs, then you get away with it more easily than something that's a little bit on the larger end or a little bit oversized. If you have oversized chamber in your rifle, you're bound to run into that problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the next little thing that's quite important that I want to talk about today is case inspection. So after you've shot and you're ready to do your new reloads, it's really important and good practice just to inspect all of your cases. Now, the first thing which is quite important before inspecting your cases is just to clean them properly. So this has just been shot a couple of days ago, and this is that I've already cleaned. So I clean them nicely with I use a sonic cleaner on the first step. And I do that so that it's nice and clean to be able to do good inspections. And what I usually look for is, as we talked about just now, just to see if I can see small little cracks on the bottom, and especially on the neck as well. Sometimes you do get a little thin crack there on the neck, and then I'll throw them away. And you can easily spot them when they're nice and clean.
Yeah.
The second reason, but the more important reason to clean the cases before you start reloading is to ensure that especially the inside of the neck of the case is quite nice and clean. It makes your dies last quite longer, and that you know that the neck tension on these are all exactly the same, and you can't know that for sure if you work with brass that's not cleaned properly. I'll elaborate a bit more on the differences on neck tension next week, but what I can say is that after I've used them or put them through the die, and I'll clean them again to make sure that there's no oil within especially on the inside of the necks, so that you get the same neck tension when shooting your rifle. Neck tension is a critical thing regarding the accuracy of your weapon. So if that differs, you'll definitely see the difference on the paper when you shoot. So I'll elaborate a bit next week on types of dies that has a big impact on the neck tension. There's more or less 3 types, but I'll focus on that for next week as a new topic.
All right.
Jan, there's also another reason to look at any substance in the neck. Is that right? Age or something like that?
Dania, if you use resizing lubricant, some of the compounds that they use might turn into some form of cement if you store it, you know, for a long time. So you really want that the surface between those two metal areas to be as clean as possible, so that you don't get stuck bullets that can cause erratic groups because they can't leave the case when you fire the shot without breaking that cement.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to keep in mind. And you know, if you have oil in there and it's very slippery, and the next case isn't slippery, that'll cause variations that will mess up your groups too. So it's a really good thing to keep your cases as clean as possible, and especially the surfaces where you have touching, keep that as clean as possible. Also, just for interest's sake, you know, there's also we talked about rimmed and rimless and belted magnums. There's also a thing called rebaited rimless cases, and they are the diameter of the rim is a bit smaller than the rest of the case, like the 284 Winchester, but it's not academic. Basically academic for people who just do normal hunting. It's more for the reloaders that'll come across them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also a semi-rimmed case, which is basically an example of that. It's a 220 Swift. So it's sort of, it looks like they couldn't decide whether it should be a rimmed or a rimless case, and they tried to do both.
In between. Okay. Yes. Valentine, it's hunting season in South Africa. We are jealous here in the Northern Hemisphere. Tell us a little bit. We know we had a program with you on just after your first hunt. Do you have anything lined up in the future?
Yeah, yes, Donnie. So we're looking forward to the next one. It's in 2 weeks' time.
Okay.
We'll be heading off to a small little town called Stella, which is close to the northern province or Northern Cape province. So it's
Okay.
like 3 hours drive from Pretoria.
Okay.
But we're taking our sons with on this one, so they are old enough now just to start hunting, and so they are coming with. So it's more a little bit of a flat type of field, so it's not the bush like we're used to here up in the northern parts. But we are really looking forward just to getting out in the field again now.
Yes, yeah. I'm just thinking, I mean, so you go to the bushveld where you shoot 50 to 100 yards, just you adults. Now you take the sons with and you go to Stella and you're going to shoot 200-300 yards. Poor boys.
Yeah, so they say, I haven't hunted on this specific farm, so they say there's both, there's bush and there's plains game as well. So
yes.
We'll see what we're heading into, but yeah, as you say, they're going to shoot a little bit further than what they used to. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. No, you must enjoy it. We must chat about the details of that afterwards again. Yeah, we're so jealous on this side. It's wonderful to see all the people hunting in South Africa and having a good time there. Jan, hunting with handguns. I know I have friends here who shoot longbow. You know, they're more down to the traditional, older way of hunting, and also more challenging ways of hunting rather than, just with hunting rifles and shooting from 300-400 yards out. Talk to us a little bit about the sport of hunting with handguns, please.
Danny, that's a very challenging sport if you're interested in taking up a challenge. To say the first thing you need to do is just make sure that it's not unlawful to hunt with handguns in your area, because different areas have different rules about handgun hunting. But if it is allowed in your area, it's a very challenging sport. And if you're still fit and you have good eyesight, it's a really good sport to take up. You have every mistake that you make with a rifle. If you do the same thing with a handgun, the results is exaggerated, so you can see it a lot more clear. So the important thing is that you're going to have to practice with a handgun a lot more than with a rifle to become proficient with it. The important thing is, I would say, there's different size game that you can try and hunt with handguns. If you're just going to shoot smaller varmints, you can use rimfire, 22 rimfire revolvers, or if it's allowed in your area, pistols. Some areas are skittish about allowing people hunting with self-loading firearms, and a pistol, as we all know, is self-loading. So it might be that pistols are excluded from handgun hunts opportunities in your area. Just make sure that you're not making a mistake as far as the law is concerned there. Also, you need to get a lot closer to the game, and you're probably going to have to practice a limited number of positions that you can shoot from, and practice them very well before you go into the field to hunt that, in order to be successful. The last thing you want to do is, this is a more difficult game, and the last thing you want to do is create a situation where we wound more animals because we're not prepared. If you practice enough and you choose the right caliber, anything from a 357 Magnum upwards, probably have enough power to shoot the smaller antelope that you might come across. But if you're shooting larger animals, you're probably going to have to move to something like the 460 Smith & Wesson or the 500 Smith & Wesson if you intend to hunt with a revolver, or you need to go to something like a Thompson Contender or the G2, which is basically a single shot handgun with a longer barrel. So now these have barrels from 10 to 16 inches, which the longer the barrel is, the more difficult it becomes to take freehand shots with it. So you need to figure out what rest you're going to use in the veld and practice with that rest before you go to the veld. Those are available, you know. I've heard of somebody who had a 416 Rigby Thompson contender. Now, personally, I'd be very careful to push the trigger on something like that. It might have a massive break on it, you know, to try and reduce the recoil. Sure. But there's a lot of purpose-made handguns in very large calibers available. What I would recommend is you find one that you can shoot very well, preferably in the biggest caliber that you can shoot really well without becoming recoil shy is probably what you want to go for. A lot of them come in rifle calibers like 308s. So if you have a favorite rifle caliber, it doesn't mean you can't have a handgun in that caliber.
I see.
So some people, we probably could call them purists, say, well, the single shot handguns isn't really a handgun, it's a cut down rifle. So they want to hunt with revolvers.
I see.
Something to keep in mind with the revolvers is just that, you know, if you have 5-shot cylinder on a handgun, for instance, just remember that each of those chambers is a separate system. What a lot of these guys do is they test on the range each chamber for accuracy, and then they pick the chamber that's the most accurate for the first shot, and they mark it clearly. So every time they load up the roll, that chamber will be fired during the first shot, and the rest is just there for backup. There's a lot of organizations run by handgun hunters for handgun hunters. So I would recommend, if you want to get involved in handgun hunting, find one of those organizations and talk to the guys who've been through the motions to show you the ropes. And I think you'll find that it's a really nice, challenging sport. It will definitely increase your hunting skills and your shooting skills, because, you know, a small mistake on a handgun gets exaggerated, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And if you're prepared to make that commitment, it's a really nice sport to be involved in. You know, it's sort of similar to bow hunting. There's a bit less movement, but you're gonna hunt and crawl a lot more than with rifle. Yeah. So if you're prepared to sacrifice some opportunities that you could have taken with a rifle, then maybe handgun hunting might be for you.
Okay, excellent, fantastic. Thank you, Jan. The sport of hunting offers so much, and there's something for everyone. Jan, tell me just a little bit about your shooting exercise last weekend. How did it go?
Donnie, it was a beautiful day, and we shot. We enjoyed the shoot. The scores didn't really reflect what should have happened. If you hit a negative for any of the targets, your score for the day is down the drain. Really enjoyed it. I didn't shoot too well. I hit 2 negatives, so it messed up my score completely. But it was still an enjoyable day. The wind wasn't too bad, so there's really no excuse. Just placing the shots in the wrong spot.
Okay. Yeah. You said
you get your scopes.
I'm sorry. You said you shot with which rifle again?
I used my 223, Danny. Okay. So usually when there's a forecast for heavy winds, I would probably go to the 243 or the 260. Because they're more forgiving on the longer shots. If you make a mistake in reading the wind or the direction of the wind, you'll hit with that caliber when the 223 would miss.
I see.
So because of the high ballistic coefficient of the projectiles, the wind doesn't have such a big influence on them than on the 223, for instance.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, this was a nice program. Thank you so much for your involvement, Valentine. Be safe and be healthy there in Pretoria, South Africa.
Thanks, Donnie. Appreciate it.
Jan, yes, and your lockdown ends tomorrow, so enjoy the freedom over there and have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks a lot, Ronnie. Be safe on that side too.
Thank you so much. Bye.